Hey guys, Natasha here with Natasha Brooks Fitness. I wanted to talk today about ulcerative colitis and Crohn's. Now, before we begin, I am not a medical doctor in any way, shape, or form. This is just information that I've come across in my years of doing research since my own personal diagnosis. So, unless you've been living under a rock or you don't watch TV, you probably have seen commercials or heard the phrase ulcerative colitis and Crohn's in like Humira or Remicade commercials. When I was first diagnosed, there was nothing like that on television. I think it's a lot more prevalent now, and so people are actually talking about it a little bit more. Um, so both are inflammatory bowel diseases, or IBD, as it gets categorized, which basically means that there's some sort of inflammation affecting the gastrointestinal tract, which is everything from your mouth to the other end. Um, so, Crohn's can actually affect the entire gastrointestinal tract, whereas ulcerative colitis usually only affects the colon and or the large intestines and the rectum. We'll keep it PC. We'll call it rectum. um, and it usually starts there for ulcerative colitis and works its way up the colon. So Crohn's can usually it affects the entire lining of the GI tract. So from the inside all the way through the bowel walls to the outside, and sometimes even adjacent parts of the body. Whereas UC, and I'm going to call it UC instead of saying ulcerative colitis the entire time, but UC usually only affects the internal lining of the bowels. Sorry, I have notes. I'm really bad. I'm so tired. I'm very tired today. So I don't have my glasses on. I actually kind of have a migraine, but you persevere and you keep moving. Um, so Crohn's, the difference between the two and how they affect not just the lining, but with Crohn's, you can actually have areas of inflammation and healthy areas right next to it. Whereas with UC, it's continuous. You're not going to have, it's not going to be patchy. It's going to be continuous the entire time through. Um, and a lot of the symptoms are the same for both, which tends to sometimes lead to a misdiagnosis. Not all the time. It does happen, but usually they do get it right. Um, so one of the common ways to tell the difference is that UC usually involves bleeding. Um, if you're passing blood in your stool, and not just like little specks, but like the whole friggin' toilet is red, that's usually UC. Because the ulcers, UC actually causes ulcers in the lining of the intestines, which causes bleeding, malabsorption, and a bunch of other things that I'll get to in another episode. But for the most part, just know that a lot of the symptoms are the same. We're talking about cramps in the abdomen, pain, if you have like sharp stabbing pains. It could be constipation, diarrhea, the urgency to go to the bathroom, as well as night sweats and joint pain. There's a lot of commonalities between the two. Let's see. You guys have probably heard me talk a lot about how I've been in remission. So remission basically means that there's little to no active active symptoms, and versus a flare, which is activity. And other things happen too. Most people that are diagnosed with either one, they usually tend to have very rapid weight loss and little appetite. It's kind of not appealing to want to eat when your stomach and your intestines are killing you with the pain that they're causing. So I would love to think that I actually, like, it was like a sudden onset of symptoms, but I know that it wasn't. I was probably having issues for a long time and just decided to ignore them. Um, like again, I am not a medical doctor. I'm just explaining some of the things that I've found along the way. I plan to do a couple of these to talk about more so ulcerative colitis than Crohn's, but because they're similar, you'll probably hear me talk about both and kind of just talk about like their frequently asked questions, treatment options, and things along that line that I've come across in the last 7 years dealing with my own personal journey. And I hope you guys come along for the watch. So have a great night. I will talk to you guys soon.